Hello, Sabado nights. Sorry about the microphone. I left it in mute, but we are here and we are back. We miss you guys. I think we've been out for about 2 weeks or so, or 3 weeks, could be wrong. And we've been having great guests here in Sabado nights. Of course, if you remember, we talk to different people. We talk from people who are in different industries, may it be theater, finance, business, ministry. We actually had a wonderful conversation last time, if you remember, with with Pastor Benjamin Lim, who is a businessman, also a pastor in Singapore, and just a fun time. He actually said that he also enjoyed being with all of you guys, and so we always try to get people from different spheres, and if we can get people from different countries, that will be lovely as well. We've got people lined up to talk to, but this evening, we're gonna have a wonderful time, and I'm sure you've seen who we're gonna be with. Dr. Randy, um, known him for what, over 15 years now. Uh, and we're gonna have a wonderful time there. But just saying hi to people, okay, before we begin, and waiting for people to join us. We've got hey, Pastor Jane is watching. I just want to say hi to you. They're actually Pastor Eric. They're actually our neighbor, just somewhere there. Franz is here saying hi, Pastor. Hi, Franz. How are you? How's I saw you were in youth, right? You were helping in the youth. Hope you had time there. Wonderful time there. Sister Lucy, how are you? Sister Lucy, are you in the province? Are you in the area? Just wanted to say hi, waiting for some more people to join us. By the way, um, if you have questions, okay, for later on, maybe you can write it down here, or you can actually um, hopefully live. I don't. Hopefully next time, no, Sana, we can have audio of people asking, but we'll figure that out, because we want people. We want to engage people, and we want the questions as fresh as possible. We've got wonderful insights from different people here. We've had stories of, like, Brother Willie Chua, who is a minister, also a businessman, who is working in the marketplace, both successful in both fields, and he was telling us about his amazing life story. Of course, we've had stories. We started out with Marvin Guermo, our first Sabado nights. Who's in the financial realm. Of course, we wanted to talk to him and pick his brain about how do you position yourself financially at this time. And so, because we also we want to impart something to you, impart wisdom, and if we can help you in some way, not just in the spheres that they operate in, but also in life. How God has really helped them navigate challenging times, and how God has uh, brought them from times of testing to times of testimony. And these are the things that we wanted to share with you. And so I want to find out, by the way, I want to find out where you're listening from. Okay, where you're listening from. I know some people are Taguig, some people are Makati. Okay, just want to know where you're from. If you're from another country and you're listening in, we'd like to see that as well. Um, Here's saying hi to Sister Ida. You know, Danielle is with us as well. Pastor Ibo, what's up? How was youth? Uh, it was the first time of my daughter to join youth a while ago, and she said, "No, I don't want to join. I don't want to join." But she finished the whole thing. I guess she enjoyed. There you go. Chona is with us right now. Hi, Chons. Saying hi from Las Piñas. There you go. And Ellen is watching. She is around MOA, of course. There you go. JS in QC. There you go. So keep them coming. I don't know if I'll be able to read all the stuff that you're writing down here, but we've got we've got our Facebook people, we've got our YouTube people. I think we also have Kumu saying hi to our friends in Kumu. Tita Epi, what's up, Tita Epi? And from Pasig, there you go. Ito si Edsel, kapitbahay lang to, malapit lang. Of course, Taguig. There you go. Welcome, guys. Welcome. I believe we're gonna have an awesome time. I'm excited because we have with us Dr. Randy Nicholas. Just for you guys to get a little bit of background about who he is. Right now, of course, he's very active in the front lines, but he graduated UP College of Medicine way back in 90 way back no in 1991, and but he went to the States and studied in Mayo Clinic as well. Graduated in 2003. Presently, he is an associate professor of surgery division of cardiovascular surgery at University of the Philippines. But I would think his greatest accomplishment is, of course, being married to Dr. Marielle and father to Kelly. Well, let's not wait for too long. Let us bring in Dr. Randy. Dr. Randy, come on in. Say hi to
Hey,
everybody. Doc,
thank you, Pastor Alvin, Pastor Mitch.
there
Thank you
you
for having me
go.
this evening.
Of course,
Thank you for the introduction too. I appreciate that.
Um, yes, of course. No, we're honored to have you. And as you've heard me saying a while ago, we're just here to have a conversation, discover more about your journey, because you don't know. Maybe somebody is exploring to be a doctor. You might inspire somebody or give people a glimpse uh, of how you journey and how you navigate your life. Also, give a glimpse about the things that are going on as well. Maybe you can clarify some people who have questions. Of course, we've been locked down for many months now, and some people just know they're
Too
home
many.
and grocery, yeah, couple of months. And but you have been out there, so we'll get to all of that. But before anything else, is there anything you want to tell us about? Tell us more about yourself, Dr. Randy.
First of all, thank you. For those who don't know, we've been attending New Life the Fort since we transferred from Greenbelt. If I'm pretty sure that's where we met Pastor Alvin when we were still at Greenbelt. Then we transferred, I believe, in 2005. And for those who don't know, we were praying about the people who were attending. We would gather together after morning service. We would gather together, Pastor Alvin, Pastor Mitch, Pastor Giselle, Pastor Omaylene, Mariel, and I. We would gather together and we would pray. We would pray about, the church and the people coming into the church and knowing about the grace of God and how Jesus um, is the answer for all the problems. And we were praying for all of you actually to come
Yeah.
in and find the person of Jesus Christ as we had. And that was all the way back, I believe, in 2005. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pastor Alvin, but
Yeah.
that was in 2005 up to 2006. And then all of a sudden, just, like just as even faster than the number of buildings being built in the fort,
Oh,
we were
yes.
adding tens and hundreds of people to the service. We were attending a service with empty seats. I remember Pastor Giselle was saying, we need to fill up all those red empty seats. And now we're still having how many services now, Pastor Alvin? It's been
We have,
six
yeah, we've had 6 services before the
six
lockdown.
services.
Of course, yeah,
Six services.
six
Just
services,
imagine
yeah.
that.
And actually, we had Saturday night as well
Yeah.
in another location, and we were actually thinking because of the restrictions, anticipating the opening. until we realized it's not yet allowed, right? But we were thinking, well, if we have 50% capacity, if that's what's allowed, we may have to squeeze in another service on a Sunday. We'll try to see if we can fit uh, seven or eight services on a Sunday alone, just
Eight
to make sure
services.
everybody. Yes, we were thinking that. Of course, that was the direction. What that was 2 months in lockdown. You know, um, I don't know if that's still the case. We'll see. We'll let
We'll
you
get
guys
back
know.
to our normal lives pretty soon. I
There you
believe
go.
so. I believe so.
Okay, there you go. Um, so, Doc, okay, let's go back before 1991 because that's when you graduated.
That's
Now,
been
let's
a
go
long time,
back to
right?
your
It just
let's go back to your formative years. When did you start thinking that being a doctor is something that you wanted to do? uh, is it a science project, or how is that? How was the young boy Randy before he was a doctor?
I was
What were your interests and stuff like that?
yeah. If you ask my mom would say she'd describe me as a mad scientist with a screwdriver. I love,
Okay.
part of my toys or part of my collection of toys were matchboxes and tools. I love the tools.
Hmm.
And as a boy, I'd take apart stuff just to see how they work. I took apart three electric fans just to see how the electric fans work,
Oh,
and I put them back together. And I did that before I was, oh, maybe 9 years old. And
wow.
there was one electric fan that my mom thinks that I destroyed because it was actually burnt. It was actually
Oh,
burnt and it came from the office of my dad, and I took it apart just to see if I could fix it. I put it back together, it wouldn't work anymore. But I told her from the start it wouldn't work, mom. And she said, you know what? You better start thinking about what you want to do in the future because, you know, you could probably put that to better use, she told me.
oh.
So I was thinking maybe, yeah, I think I'd like working with my hands rather than sitting behind a desk. So early on in life, I was very, very curious. I loved
Mhm.
my sciences. I loved reading. In fact, my parents bought me an Encyclopedia Britannica, the whole volume.
Oh, wow.
It was
Yes.
the Yeah, it was the red, easy to read volume. And I said, Mama, I'm done with this. You think you can buy me the bigger collegiate encyclopedias? And she got this encyclopedia. I think it cost her a small fortune during that time, but she
Dr.
got me that.
Randy,
Yeah,
you may have to explain what that is to our younger audience
yeah.
because they
Like
know
I
about
said,
they know Wikipedia.
yeah.
I
Well,
don't know if they remember.
before Wikipedia, there were books, and there were a collection of books that had all the knowledge in the world. Now it's all on the internet, but you had to buy volumes upon volumes of books
Yeah.
just to have that knowledge.
And
Yeah,
you have to
and
update that, right? I mean, after a few
correct.
years, yeah, you
Yeah,
can't just have the
get
same thing.
updated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
remember
it was quite expensive too.
oh yes, yeah. I remember my mom bought I don't know which one it was, but I loved looking at pictures. The words not so much, but all the pictures and I
Yeah,
was like, wow, these are interesting. If there's something that pops out, I kind of read the small letters under the pictures, but not really the article. But if there's a homework, yes, you have to research, and that was
yeah,
very interesting. Dr. Rani, if I ask you, because I remember trying to take apart stuff, as well, but it stayed, like that. I didn't know how to put it back,
put it
right?
back.
And there's something about is. Do you think that's a boy thing to be curious and try to take things apart,
Absolutely,
or you know
absolutely.
um
It's
that's
inherent on
curiosity, yeah.
Yeah, it's inherent among children to be curious, and the curiosity of boys and girls are kind of they're not they're not far apart, but they're very, very complementary.
Mm,
Men, boys usually like mechanical stuff,
yeah.
and women, the curiosity of women is towards the higher levels of thinking. Uh, Boys are towards mechanical and physical curiosity as well. But they're very complementary. But curiosity is a inherent among all children. I guess I guess as parents, we need to foster curiosity
Mm.
and we need to entertain it. In fact, we need to um, educate ourselves towards where our children are curious so that we can help them and develop their interests as well. So, yeah, I had to do that on my own though because my dad was very, very busy. He
Hmm.
was in the military and he was going from one place to the other, and so I had to find out things for myself.
So when your dad would be traveling, you guys didn't join. Unlike, let's say, the families in the states, when the when their dad soldier would be deployed somewhere else, they'd be going. So you basically stayed
Traveling.
in one
No,
area.
we
Okay.
we eventually followed.
Oh,
Like before I hit the age of 10, we had transferred houses maybe 5 times already.
wow.
So we moved to the U.S. when I was 2 years old, and we came home back to the Philippines. And we moved around the U.S.
Mm.
Um, initially to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and then we moved to San Francisco. Then before we moved back home, and I was back home. I think I was already grade 5, I believe, grade 4, I believe, when we came home. And yeah,
So how do you think that affected you when moving, from one place to the next? Because that could be it maybe for some that's exciting, but it has its own challenges in like building
absolutely.
friendship and whatever. How did that affect your childhood?
That what you just said, Pastor Alvin, hit the nail on the head. Friends was the most difficult thing.
Mm,
As a child growing up, it was difficult because every time you move, you lose. You have to you say goodbye to your friends that you already had very very close relationships with. And when
mm,
you moved, you had to find new friends, and that was the
yeah.
difficult part: finding friends and trying to fit in. In fact, when I came home to the Philippines, ironically, it was in the Philippines where I was bullied because I didn't speak Tagalog at all until I was in high school. So I was bullied because they thought I was, you know, if you look at me, I have dark skin and I
Mhm.
spoke English, but with a slang and spoke no Tagalog. So yeah, I was getting into fights almost every week.
And how did your parents take that? Always in a fight.
I come home all muddy from rolling around in the dirt. They used to, Pastor Alvin. I don't know if you're old enough to have that experience, but they used to call it square. I don't know why they used to call it square. They come up to me and said, "Oh, square tayo mamaya." And what that meant was, I'm challenging you
Yeah.
to a fist fight. And
It, it could be a box. It could be a big boxing reference.
it could be.
Yeah.
So that's how I spent the first 2 years coming home from the U.S. I was a little bit on the bullied side. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I think to a certain degree, I remember being bullied, but I think I was grade 2, and usually the older kids would be the one to
Yeah.
bully you. And I just remember thinking when I get to grade 6 or, something like that, I will look for you. Of course, I wasn't thinking properly because they'd be older, right? I was
Yeah.
just thinking that they'd stay their age and I'll rise up to their age. But after a while, it really didn't matter,
Yeah.
and so that was very interesting. I didn't know that you were moving a lot when you were a kid,
Yeah.
and so that's pretty interesting. Um, so Would you say that you, at least when you were younger, you were more introvert or extrovert, or how is that?
Oh, um, I'd probably say I was more. I sought the company of people more
Hmm.
than being alone. But there were times that I wanted to be alone, especially when I was poring over my books. I wanted to be
Oh,
alone during the time. I didn't want any distraction. But I really craved the company of friends and of acquaintances and
yeah.
classmates. Yeah. So
What
I
about
was.
siblings? How's the dynamics with the
Uh, that's
siblings?
that's another story in itself. I grew up. I grew up with five sisters, no brothers, and
Wow.
I was right smack in the middle. So so I was never close to any one of them.
Did they
And
share their dolls with you?
no, they didn't. They didn't. They had their own rooms, and I had my own room. I
Hmm.
remember when we moved back to the Philippines, we stayed for a couple of years in Baguio because my dad was taught at the Philippine Military Academy,
Hmm.
and we were staying in Baguio. And my dad, he had my room constructed um, in the garage. It was in the garage, so it was on one end of the house,
Wow.
and all the other bedrooms were on the other end. And I remember that because every time in Baguio, remember, it could get so windy at night, and you could
Hmm.
hear the howling winds through the pine trees and stuff, and make weird sounds. And
Ooh.
I'd remember sleeping on my bed, and I say, man, if something happened, I'd have to go through the kitchen, then the dining room, then the living room, the hallway, just up the stairs, just to get to my dad's room. I said, all right, I needed to make a plan just in case something happened.
And
But
of
that
course,
was,
with the imagination, di ba, of a young boy, it's
oh,
like, what's
absolutely.
happening? Oh, yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, okay, what science experiment do you remember the best? Most memorable science experiment. Maybe
Oh,
grade school, high school, doesn't matter.
yeah. I remember the fondest memories I had were dissections because we
Okay.
were we were we were asked in high school to dissect frogs, and in college we were asked to dissect cats, and
Hmm.
the one that really got me was turtle. We had to dissect the turtle.
Ooh.
It was just absolutely horrifying that what my classes were doing, because if you examine a turtle, the belly of a turtle is also a hard shell, and
Hmm.
and you know if you try dissecting a turtle, it can be absolutely bloody. So
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time. I was able to remove the shell from underneath without injuring the without injuring the turtle. In fact, when I removed uh, the entire
The
shell from the
shell.
belly, there was the lining of the abdominal cavity intact underneath. And when my teacher came up to me, she said, "How in the world did you do that?" And I looked at her and I said, um, "Ma'am, I did it carefully."
That's
And she
interesting, of
just said,
course.
"How did you do it?" I said, "Carefully." And I said, "All right. If you ever think about becoming a doctor, maybe you do very well being a surgeon." She said, and I said, "Oh,
Wow.
that's a good idea. That's a great idea."
Would you say that was a seed, in your mind, parang going towards that direction?
Could have been, yeah. Because ever since I got into pre med and medicine, I knew I already wanted to be a surgeon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So towards when you're taking like pre-med and all of that, was this the time that you also met Dr. Mariel or no?
Well, no. actually, Mariam, I met her in when I was a resident.
Ah,
I was already a surgical resident, and she was a medical student. And the nice thing about Maria is we were five courting her, five guys courting her, all at the same time.
what
And
does it say about you?
I know, but when I started courting her, um, you know, I distinctly remember asking God for an opportunity. I told God, God, I'm really interested in courting Maria. I know she's your child because she holds. Maria was a mature Christian during that time, and that was my main criteria for looking for a an eventual partner or possible
Yeah.
wife was one, she had to be a Christian. She had to have the same heart that I had. She had the
Hmm.
same beliefs that I had. And when I saw her, she was holding a small Bible study just before class with some of her classmates. They were all females, and I saw her and she was leading and said, "Who is that?" And I found out, she was very popular in her class. She was very popular with the other classes above her as well. And I found out that there were already four guys courting her. And I distinctly remember I asked God, God, if you give me an opportunity to meet her, I will not, um, I will not, you know, you will not regret giving me that opportunity. I will not put that to waste. I'll not make that go to waste. I'll make the best of it. And within a week, I was heavy into exercise during that time. So just before my call, my duty at 7 p.m., I had run from the from PGH. I'd run all the way to the cultural center of the Philippines and back. And when running back, I saw that her car, she left her car lights on. And I said, "Gosh, that's the opportunity, God, that I've been praying for." So immediately showered, everything, got to my scrubs, and I looked for her and I asked her classmate, "Where's Maria?" He says, "Why are you looking for her, sir?" I said, "Well, I just need to talk to her." Why? Everybody was asking why. Why do I need to tell you a reason why I needed to talk to her? And eventually I found her and I said, Maria, I think you left your car lights on. And she
Okay.
said thank you, and it started there. And yep, eventually we got married. That's
Wow.
how we met.
That's when you know your future is bright.
Oh, absolutely. That's right. That is so right.
During your college years, Doc, going through, how's it, going through pre med and all of that? Was it all just studies, or how did uh, uh, Dr. Randy, well, before Dr. Randy, how's the medical student Randy? Uh, how would you put in? Was it all just study, or how do you have fun with your other friends?
Yeah,
What was that like?
yeah. Med school is very peculiar.
Hmm.
Let me give you a let me make it a little bit more um, visual. When I
Sure.
entered med school, Eat Bulaga was on Channel 9. When I finished med school, it was on Channel 7. And
Mm.
when I first watched Ipulaga after, I realized that they were just absolutely so old. I said, "What happened to these guys?" I said, "Has it been that long?" And it really takes away from you. Med school really takes away
Wow.
from you. It's a sacrifice that you need to realize that if it's not for you, then maybe you should not consider taking it. But the thing is, if you're passionate about the clinical sciences, then
Yep.
yeah, then it's absolutely rewarding. There's there there's there's no amount of money that can ever take the place of seeing your patient become much, much
Mm,
better. And
mm,
years down the line,
yeah.
years down, I operated on a pastor's daughter, Hannah. I remember her name, Hannah Antonio, because her heart was inverted. So she was born blue, and her heart was uh, baliktad, or we
Mm,
call it transposition of the great arteries. And we had to do surgery on her 12th hour of life. So she was newly born, not even a
wow.
day old, and we had to operate on her. And it was a very critical operation. But cut the story short, um, 5 years down the line, I was lining up in fully booked in
Mm,
High Street.
mhm.
And when I was
BGC.
at the cashier, I felt a light tug on my pant leg. And I looked down and there's this young girl. She's just pulling on my pant leg. And I said, "Hello, young princess. What can I, how can I help you?" And she goes, points to her parents who were, a couple of yards further away. And I recognized them immediately. I looked down at her and said, "Are you
Oh,
Hannah?" And that brought tears to my eyes.
wow.
Seeing her at the edge of death, just newly
Wow.
born, and then now 5 years down the line, she's this healthy young 5-year-old girl running around, pink and everything. So no amount of money can replace
Yeah.
feelings. Nothing will. And if you're passionate, if people are passionate about the clinical sciences, the rewards are absolutely tremendous. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's absolutely priceless. Wow. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. So you went through that knowing that at least for those who are serious. Have you ever met a student, a medical student who's just not really serious about things?
Yeah.
I don't know what's motivating them.
Yeah.
And how are you able to keep your focus for studying that long?
Um, I guess, yeah, to answer your first question, yes. I actually had a very, very good friend who finished med school, who finished 5 years of surgery, who practiced surgery for 10 years before he found out, I don't like this anymore. And now he's a
Wow,
practicing lawyer. So,
that's a couple
so
of years again, studying
oh,
again.
that's 6 years more study after practicing for 10 years. Now he's practicing lawyer and he's happy. But yes, like what you said, it really takes a lot of concentration and a
Mhm.
lot of sacrifice. And what really held me together, because surgery is, in terms of stress levels, surgery is way up there,
Mm.
and it's at the highest level of stresses. We have we have, we've had instances where residents or candidates had to drop off because of suicidal tendencies, and
Oh
that's how
wow,
really bad it would be.
wow.
And the only thing that really held me together was my faith in God, that God would see me through. And it came to, I really realized how much I needed God when I had this patient who I operated on. He got much better, but he filed a case against me for unnecessary surgery.
Oh
I
wow.
was just a resident during that time, and he filed a case, and he filed several cases. He filed a he filed a criminal case, a civil case, and a case with the PRC to have my license revoked. And I said, why would you do that? And it says, because of you, I can't work anymore. I said, why can't you work? And the wife actually admitted to me that the cousin, who's a psychiatrist, looked at his chart and he said, "You don't need surgery." And I said, "But she's a psychiatrist. How can she give surgical
Yeah.
advice?" And on that premise, they went forward with all the cases.
Wow.
And eventually the cases were found, first of all, the criminal case, it was found without merit. So
Hmm.
the criminal case never progressed. The civil case, the judge came up to me and she pulled me aside to her quarters, and she said, Dr. Nicholas, I just want to tell you, this case most likely will not end up having any merit against you.
Hmm.
But that being said, I would advise you to go through the entire process because it will clear your record.
Yeah.
If you settle it, it will always come out that a case was filed against you.
Yeah.
But you just go through it, just go through the motions, and then um, most likely it will not progress. So I had to endure that for 2 years.
Wow.
So 2 years not knowing if I'd ever
Yes,
graduate
I'm
from
sure.
surgery
Yeah.
and or even have a license afterwards. So if I was not close with God, then you know I would have lost it. I would not have been where I am right now. My
Wow.
capacity to help people. So
I
it
mean,
can
to
be it
think.
can be
Yeah.
very difficult, but
Yeah.
then again, it can be very very rewarding as well.
I mean, to think, and I'm sure yours is not the only case where a doctor has helped somebody, and then later on they come back and try to file a case against them
Yeah,
and whatever. And I'm glad it turned out well for you. But what about other people that didn't really do anything? They're healthier because of their physician, but it's you never know, right? But
yeah.
when did you know? Was it already in college, or already as a doctor, or did you give your life to Christ prior to that, as a kid,
Oh, yeah,
as a high school student? How did you get to that point where you said, I need God in my life?
yeah. My journey in meeting Jesus was quite traumatic. I was high school. I was first year high school when my parents separated, legally separated. I was first year high school, and 2 years after that, we lost. I lost my youngest sister. She had an accident and she drowned. And my first cousin, who's my age at that time, tried to save her, and they both drowned. So it was quite a
Wow.
tragic. It was quite a tragic loss for the family, and that was on the heels of my parents splitting up. And ironically, it was my father who found Christ first, and
Oh,
he talked to us. And I remember when the altar call was made, the first time I heard an altar call, my heart was at the altar, but my body was still in my seat. You
wow.
know how that is. And I really knew I needed to go there, but for
Uh,
some reason my body wasn't moving. My heart was already there, but my body wasn't. So the next Sunday, I made it an effort. I told myself, you need to heed the altar call because this is what you need. So
wow.
I found Christ when I was in high school, approximately around. I believe I was already about to graduate high school, and I was the first one among our siblings to receive Christ, and it was my father who was the one who eventually
Wow.
um, um, got me to Christ. But they were legally separated. You see, they were legally
Hmm.
separated for already 4 years, and my father was already um, sort of. I'm not sure, but he was already living with another family,
Hmm.
and it was at this time when when I was questioning that if you were the author of marriage, the covenant of marriage being authored by you yourself, then I believe that my dad, my late dad, and my mom need to get back together. If
Mm.
that is your will for them to get back together,
Wow.
then they need to be back together. And we were praying for that. I remember around 7 years praying that my parents would get together. I just said, Lord, I'm done praying. I'm done praying for them. If they want to go their ways, then all right, I'll leave that up to them. But if this is your will, then no one will be able to
Stop it.
to stop it. They
Mhm.
will get back together. And the miracle behind this is a year before I got married, they got remarried. My parents remarried.
Wow.
Imagine that. My mom, she was with Congress. She was a director of foreign affairs, a director of um, foreign in Congress. She was the
Mm.
director of foreign liaison, something like that.
Mhm.
And she got to know all the speakers of all the other countries who would liaise with Batasan Pambansa.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and she, and I once I answered the phone in her house and we said hello, and she says, "Hi, this is um, George Snedden, I think it was his name, Snedden. Yes, I'd like to speak with Mrs. Nicholas, Miss Nicholas." She said, "Miss Evelyn Nicholas." She
Uh,
said, "Oh, you're talking about my mom?" He said, "Who is this, please?" "Oh, this is just tell her it's Speaker Snedden." He was the Speaker of the Australian Parliament, and he was
oh
calling my
wow.
mom. And I remember, "Mom, who's this guy?" He says, "Is he courting her or something?" I says, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I think he was courting my mom."
Mm.
And even despite that, I tell you, Pastor Alvin, if God's will was for two men, God's word says, whatever God put together, let no man put asunder. No man could stop get them getting back together.
Yeah.
So my mom eventually had the strength in her heart and had the forgiveness in her heart to forgive my father. And my
Wow.
father said, uh, you know, "I courted your mom for the last 10 years. I was courting her and trying to get her back for the last 10 years." So they were married 17 years. They separated for 14 years, and they got remarried. They were married, stayed married until my dad passed away for 15 more years. So
Wow.
that
That's an
was their
amazing
journey.
story.
Yeah,
Wow. Amazing story. I think your prayers had something to do with that as well.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. That wonderful,
Like I
wonderful
said,
story.
7 years down the line, I stopped praying. I said, "Lord, bahala na kayo doon."
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, after a while you go, I just surrender, Lord, and you don't know it's. I think like Daniel, it's been answered the first night. It's just it took a while. Remember
No.
he was praying, and then the angel was sent. Uh, that very same day he prayed.
Yeah,
So I think the moral to that story is really just uh, continue to believe. Continue to believe.
absolutely.
That's a amazing story.
Yeah.
What would you say some of the sacrifices that you made just so you can focus on this is what I want to become? Because I believe this is not only for people who are taking medicine or law or those extended educational whatever, but for anybody who has a desire to, if they see something that they want, be willing to to pay the dues, or like you said a while ago, one of what's one of the memorable sacrifices that you remember?
Biggest sacrifice, I guess, is social life.
Hmm.
Um, you as even in med school, your social life is very very limited because you don't have the opportunity to meet other people.
Hmm.
Your the your circle of friends are limited to the college where you spend most of your time at. Because if you consider the schedule of medicine, you wake as a student, you wake up approximately around 6 o'clock to be at school at around 6:30, start 7, end up around 3 p.m., then enter clinics to around 5 p.m. By 5 p.m. you're home, you just change and have dinner, then you need to study for the next day. So that was
Mhm.
your routine. Then
Wow.
when you enter residency, it becomes even more hectic because in residency I was up at around 5 or 4:30 in the morning. I'd do rounds until 7. 7, my first patient will be up in the operating room, and I'll be in the operating room for 3 cases. And then by the time I get out of the operating room, it's approximately around 7 p.m. So at
Wow.
7 p.m., we get together as a team, and then we go on rounds on all the patients. We end up around 10 o'clock. And then 10 o'clock, we have dinner, get to bed around 11:30, wake up 4 o'clock, 4:30, do the same thing all over again. And this went on
Wow.
for 5 years of general surgery, 2 years of thoracic cardiovascular, 2 years of cardiac. So 9 years. That was 9 years of that routine. So that was the biggest sacrifice. Um, I,
Wow.
I saw my parents maybe once during my birthday because they had taken me out. Another when we would get together for October birthdays because my mom and my dad celebrated their birthdays on both on October
Mm.
and then on Christmas. If I was not on um,
Duty.
call, yeah, if I wasn't
Yeah.
on trauma call. So
So,
that's
Doc, yeah,
the biggest sacrifice.
because I remember you were telling me that there was a season in your life with I think Dr. Marielle that you guys were in Canada, and that's one of the trying times also that you had. Because was Kelly already born at that time?
Yes,
Yes.
I believe, 1.5 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So, why did you decide to go to Canada? Is that for further learning or more experience? How was that like? Because you're not yet. I mean, you haven't decided. You later on you would decide to come back here, right? But what was that like living in another nation and with a baby? You know.
Yeah. We actually started in the UK
Hmm.
because I was going to the Royal Brompton in the UK before Mariel got a call from Canada and saying that our slot for pediatric dermatology has become vacant. If you're interested, you can come over.
Wow.
We can interview you, and and you know we talked about it. Mariel said, "Randy, this is the only opportunity I'll have to get into this slot." And I said, "Then let's take it." And we took it, but this is the thing. Canada is socialized medicine,
Yeah.
so they have a strict number of paid residents. And the
Hmm.
paid residents for the entire province of Ontario for pediatric dermatology were only two. One was in Ottawa, and one was in Toronto.
Hmm.
And that
Wow.
stipend went to her fellow, to her co-fellow. So Mariel accepted the position, knowing that she wouldn't be paid. She would work,
Wow.
she would see patients, she would work going on rounds and doing research and everything, and not receive any payment, not a single dime. And she said, we talked about it and we did some calculations. If we sold both our cars and we pulled up all our money, we'd have money good enough for 10 and a half months. Good 10 and a half
Yeah.
months. And we said, let's just take it. Then if we run out, then we'll just ask from your parents or from my parents. And then um, so like what you said, Pastor, that was a really hard time because we would go out. and during free days or weekends and go window shopping, and Kelly will say, "Oh, can we try that?" And I said, "Kelly, I remember telling her, Kelly, there will come a time when
Mm.
your mom and I will be able to get you there, but that time is not now. But,
Wow.
but it will come. Don't you worry, it will come." So we were living a life like that. I remember also going to church once. Um, it snowed out. It really, the snowfall in Toronto can be absolutely terrifying.
Mm.
It can be sunny once, then suddenly a snowstorm. It will dump 2 feet right on the
Oh,
pavement, on the sidewalk. And I remember going to church once. When we got off the bus, I used Kelly's um, baby carriage. She was in the carriage. She
yeah.
had a protective hood over her. She feel quite comfortable. And I used it to plow the, the snow from the sidewalk, and we had to
Make
walk
a
approximately
make a
around
game out of it.
200 meters
Oh
just to
my
get to
gosh.
church in the middle of a snowstorm. So that
Well,
was one. Yeah, that was hard to.
for many Filipinos, we don't know what
Yeah,
it's like to experience that type of cold.
yeah,
But I can imagine, for people that are not used to it, and then suddenly to
yeah,
be in the middle
absolutely.
of it. Wow. And then so when Dr. Mariel was working in Canada, you were also working as well, or
No, I was taking care of Kelly and
okay,
cooking the meals. I was fixing the house, washing the clothes. I was a house
wow,
husband.
there you go. A
Yeah,
doctor house husband. That's
yeah,
that's quite a sacrifice, just to say,
yeah.
okay, I'll. It's not right. So that's very interesting. Okay, I remember just a picture of a bulldog in my head because Mitch preached about that for like several years back, um, talking about resilience, the tenacity. You are quite resilient. You're tenacious about something because I think I'd like to hear your story about you getting to Mayo Clinic. I
Mm.
remember you telling us about that because is that after the time in Canada you went to the US? Because maybe for some people, let them know what Mayo Clinic is, because maybe the only mayo I know before you told me is what I eat, the mayonnaise, right?
Yeah,
But but tell us about the prestige of Mayo Clinic and how you ended up there.
yeah. Well, Mayo Clinic is one of the more prestigious hospitals in the U.S. The It's so prestigious that it's usually referred to as the hospital for U.S. presidents. So if the president of the United States needed urgent surgery, urgent care, they would go to the Mayo Clinic. So Ronald Reagan had his brain surgery there. Um, Many other senators and vice presidents were operated on there as well, chemotherapy as well. So it's quite a prestigious
Mm,
hospital. But the reason why I considered it the top school for cardiac surgery is because that's the birthplace of cardiac surgery.
wow,
Heart surgery was invented in Mayo Clinic and in at
amazing.
the University of Minnesota as well. So for 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 a short period of time in the late 50s and the early 60s, there was only one place in the entire world where you can have heart surgery. It was in the state of Minnesota,
Mm,
and that was in the Mayo Clinic and the Heart Institute at the University of Minnesota. And that's the reason why I prayed and I asked God, again, if you would give me an opportunity, get into a Mayo Clinic, I will not. I will make the most of it. I will
Hmm.
not uh, take it for granted. I will make you proud that you brought me into that institution. Yeah, and just like when I asked Maria to go out with me, it took me 6 months. It was like courting another uh, woman again. Mayo Clinic was even more finicky. It took me almost 2 years of courting them. Countless. There wasn't email was very early during that time. It wasn't very
Uh,
well established during that time. But I sent close to maybe 50 emails, close to 40 handwritten letters, snail
wow.
mail. I think I did 3 long distance phone calls, and yeah, just
Amazing.
to try to get an interview there. And I was asking God, God, what do you have planned for us? Because I really want to get into the Mayo Clinic. When I said that, because apart from Mayo Clinic, I had the Plan B.
Uh,
Mayo Clinic was my Plan A. My Plan B was Cleveland Clinic, Texas Heart Institute, um, also Hopkins was and
hmm.
Harvard. And the
Harvard
funny
is
thing
down
is,
the list.
well, the reason why is because it didn't have a very good history in
Yeah,
heart surgery. Harvard.
yeah.
Um, the thing is, when I was really bent on getting into Mayo Clinic and asking for, we were in Canada, I got an application from Harvard, and I got an
Oh, okay.
application from Cleveland Clinic and the Texas Heart Institute. I got 3 applications on my desk in Canada, just waiting for me to sign it and then mail it, and I'd be accepted.
Wow.
And I said, Mario, look at these. I have an opportunity to go to Harvard, study there for cardiac surgery. Of course, it's not my number one plan. It's not in my heart's desire to go there, um, but I can send. I'll be paid, and I can send you money so that you'll have enough for the entire year you're here. Because you remember, we only had money for maybe at the most, if we really didn't spend 11 months. We were short
Wow.
1 month. And she asked me, but that's not what you want. Maria said, you know,
Wow.
the reason why you have a desire in your heart is because that's that's what the desire that God put into your heart. And you need to trust in Him, that He'll be the
Yeah.
one to bring you to Mayo Clinic. So I had these 3 applications. I I never even ever never did
Amazing.
consider signing it. In fact, I got an email and a letter from the Cleveland Clinic and from Harvard, you know, saying that you put us in a situation wherein we thought that you'd be coming in. Now we're short one fellow. I
Oh
said, oh
my
my
God.
gosh, what did I do? What did I do? And I didn't even say I was interested. I think they just sent me. And then eventually,
Pressure.
yeah, eventually, towards it was I think towards the 6th month that we were in Canada, I finally got a call from the Mayo Clinic, and they said,
Wow.
you know, we were wondering if you are able to come over for an interview, and said, I'm on the next plane out. Just tell me when, and I'll be there. So they gave me a date in November. I went there, and I tell you, I was never as nervous as I was during that interview. You know what my interview was, Pastor? I started my interview at 7 a.m. I
Uh,
ended at 4 p.m.
what?
I had 10 interviews, one
Oh
on one,
my gosh.
10 different doctors, one on one interviews from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I was just
Did you,
going from one place to the other, interview after interview. I had to go to the operating room because one of the interviewers was operating. And I was just there, and I was standing, and I was just waiting for him to, get um, for a lull in his surgery, and he'd start asking me questions. So just stay there, and he'd go operate again. It was just
Easy.
ah, what you need to go through just to get to this
Yes.
place. I said, what in the world? And eventually, when I was accepted, and I spent 2 years in the Mayo Clinic. Eventually, when I was leaving the Mayo Clinic, uh, the head of the residency committee pulled me aside and said, Randy, um, we were really happy to have you on board. And I know we gave you a hard time. And I said, 2 years hard time, sir. 2
Yeah.
years
Yes.
of applications. 2 years, huh? Yeah, we gave you a hard time. The reason is we get a tremendous number of applicants at the Mayo Clinic. You cannot believe the number of applicants we get at the Mayo Clinic from all over the world. And the reason why we gave you a hard time is because we didn't know any of your references. If you have if you had known anyone at the Mayo Clinic who could give you a very good reference, then you would have gotten in right away. And that was true. You know why? I got three people, or three of my students, into the Mayo
Mm.
Clinic with just a phone call, and that's how big the
Okay.
word recommendation comes. I also had two candidates that were denied because I didn't give them a
Mm.
good recommendation. One because
Okay.
one candidate wasn't very he wasn't outstanding at all, and
Mm.
I knew that he would not fit well in I
Represent. Yeah.
didn't give him a good recommendation. They didn't get him, but I got three individuals into the med clinic, and they're very happy that they were able to get in.
I'm just amazed, and for people that are listening, we have people that are engaged with their comments here, and we have some questions. By the way, if you're joining us just now, we're having a conversation with Dr. Randy, heart surgeon. But more than that, he's a husband, a father, and a son of God. A
Amen.
wonderful believer,
Amen.
and just he's just sharing to us his journey. Not just medical journey, but all the challenges that he went through, and just a wonderful testimony, Dr. Randy, of just believing and not settling for something. Because for some people, I mean, I don't know what I'd do in your situation, knowing that there's this another hospital, there's this Harvard. Because a lot of people, they hear Harvard and they're wow, impressed, right?
Yeah.
But you had something in your heart, and just God just opened a door for you. And I think there's it's one thing for you to aim for Mayo Clinic, but if I'm not mistaken, you're not the only one who ended up in Mayo Clinic. How did that door open for Doc Mariel?
Yeah. Um, there's a program. There's a matching program when you're accepted into the Mayo that they'll match your spouse. And it doesn't have to be a medical degree. If your spouse, for example, is a lawyer, they can find temporary, um, you know, employment for her in the legal office, for example, or if she's an accountant, in the accounting office.
Wow.
It just so happened that Maria was a first she finished dermatology, and she finished pediatric dermatology. And I said, yeah, well, I'll just sign her up for a matching program. And she eventually was matched to immunodermatology.
Hmm.
And the, 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 um, the doctor in charge of immunodermatology said that they already had a candidate for the incoming year. So maybe for the next year
Hmm.
she can apply if I intended to stay 2 years. And I said yes, I intended to stay 2 years. But you see, Mariel performed so well in Canada that she was already offered a position in Canada, but she said, "No, I need to be with my husband because that's
Oh.
where that's my place. My place is with my husband." and she joined me because when when I eventually started in Mayo, she hadn't finished in Canada yet. So we
Mm,
decided that I'll be in the US, she'll be in Canada, and we needed to bring Kelly home to the Philippines. So Kelly was
okay.
home in the Philippines for 4 months, and we were apart. Um, all
Wow.
three of us were apart
Yes.
for 4.5 months, actually, 4.5 months. And well, her mentor in Canada liked her so much that she called the Mayo and said, I have a candidate here. If you don't if you don't get her for this year, then you're making a big mistake.
Wow.
She is absolutely my best resident that I've ever had. And this mentor, she's been in practice for more than 40 years. So
Oh
that was
my
saying
gosh.
a lot about Maria.
Mm,
And she had wanted Maria to take over her practice in Toronto, but Maria said no. My place is with my husband. My husband is at a Mayo
wow.
Clinic, and that's where I need to be. So
There
she
you
she,
go.
she joined me, and eventually they had to call the candidate from Ireland and say, we're so sorry, but we can't accommodate you for this year. We have another
Oh
candidate that
my
has
god.
been recommended. All right, so Mariel was accommodated, and Mariel actually wrote a book um,
Mm, yes, yes.
when she was at the Mayo Clinic, a medical textbook, and it's called the Mayo Clinic Atlas for Immunofluorescence in Dermatology. And you can see her as the co-author. She actually authored it, but since she was not a Mayo Clinic staff, she could only be as high as co-author. But she was the one who
Mm,
authored it. That was all her work.
wow.
Yeah.
For me, just listening to this awesome way that God kind of put all these things together, right? And if you guys are listening, if you're somebody who will one day be married, it's just that commitment, knowing your place. Because in a world that we're living in, modern times, diba, Doc, na career is very very important, for the husband also, uh, giving access for our wives as well to celebrate them and have their own careers. And sometimes the career becomes more important because they want to build something. But for just to know that, what, my place, because that's a wonderful offer. It's a great op. You can see that, hey, may breakthrough ako. I have a, God blessed me with this wonderful opportunity. You can easily say that, but to be willing to give that up for just knowing that I need to be with, my husband, or the other way around, that's commitment. And I believe you can see in your lives that God has blessed that tremendously. And I just want, people are saying here that kilig sila, or it's a what a testimony, because it is a testimony. But
Yeah.
the testimony doesn't end there. We still have a bit more to let you know. Doctor, let me just ask you this. No, what was your first operation like?
Oh, at Mayo,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
okay. When I applied to the Mayo Clinic, I was so interested in congenital heart surgery. I was so interested in that, and I said I don't want transplant because we don't do transplant in
The
the
Philippines.
Philippines. I've done adult. I'm not interested in adult. I've done that. I want congenital. So you know where they put me? They put me in transplant service. my first,
Okay.
my first day um, was on a Saturday, and I was on transplant. I did not know anything about transplant. I had to read the entire night of that Saturday. Sunday, not even 24 hours in Mayo Clinic, my transplant beeper suddenly lights up.
My
Beep, 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 beep.
gosh.
I said, "Oh no, what do I do now?" So I run to physician assistant. I said, "What do I do now?" I said, "You go to the operating room. What else?" I said, "Oh, okay, silly me." So I run to the operating room, and I get there, and everybody's, it's a Sunday, and everybody's rushing around, and everybody's, and I said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Nix. I'm the new fellow," and nobody was paying attention to me, and they were just running past me. And hey, excuse me, hello, and and I had to. I went into the operating room, and I put my hands like, I was playing patintero, the
Yeah,
patintero.
yes, yeah, yes, yeah.
Anyway, I was saying, "Excuse me." This nurse was just there, and we were, we're just trying to get out of my.
Past you,
No,
yeah.
no, you're not going anywhere until you answer me one thing. I'm the new fellow here. I don't. This is my. I'm not even one day at the Mayo Clinic. I don't know what's going on. You need to tell me what's going on. So yeah, okay, just get in here. Just get ready, scrub up, and get ready. You need to open up the patient. This is the recipient is here. Open up the patient. Get him ready. So the heart's coming in. And who's the consultant? Dr. Daly's at his house. He's coming in at 4 p.m. It says 4 p.m. So I got 2 hours to prep this patient for transplant. And I didn't know what to do. So I
Oh
just did
my
it.
gosh.
I remember Pastor Alvin because the recipient had already a open heart scar. And I
Mm.
knew it would be difficult to get in. And you know what I remembered? I remembered opening up that turtle because
Yeah.
if you knock yourself here, you feel a bone because there's a bone here, your breastbone that you have to
Uh,
go through. But the heart is stuck to the back of the breastbone, so you have
yeah.
to do just the top portion and slowly get in without injuring the heart. So I was doing it as carefully as I could, and I was telling Lord God, please guide my hands, Lord. I surrender myself to you. Your hands,
Wow.
my hands are yours. Use them as you will. So eventually, I was able to prepare the patient very well. And when the consultant comes in, I say, "Hey, that's a pretty good job." And he looks at me and says, "Who who are you?" I says, "Dr. Daly, I'm the new guy. I just got in yesterday. Yesterday. So you mean you're not even 24 hours here and you're already doing this?" He says, "Yeah." Then, "Oh, that's a pretty good job. Okay, I'll scrub." So he scrubs in. And when he gets in, I move over to the assist side. And he says, "Where are you going?" I said, "Dr. Daly, I'm going to assist you." He says, "Don't you want to do the case?" And I said, "Dr. Daly, this is just practically my second day at the Mayo Clinic. I'm new. I'm from the Philippines. We don't do transplants in the Philippines." And he looks up into the ceiling and says, "Well, you're here to learn, aren't you?" And he says, "Yes, I am." "See, then learn."
Oh my
and,
gosh.
he, and, he, and here I am on my second day at the Mayo Clinic doing a heart transplant. And I say, my God, what kind of favor is this? That is the reason why God wanted me at the Mayo Clinic, because the hands on experience there is just absolutely tremendous.
Oh my
As
gosh.
compared to my colleagues who went elsewhere, they couldn't do anything. Here they're asking, on my second day, I was doing a heart transplant.
Wow.
And the
Probably
funny
ask you.
thing
You
is,
read the book, right? Last night? Yes, I did.
no, I read practically just one chapter.
Oh my gosh. That's like me in high school. Like,
Because it's
yeah, I'm
like
I'm too
I,
tired.
I knew I knew I could understand, but I couldn't grasp it in my mind that I'll be doing this. So, it's just going back and forth, back and forth.
So it's the turtle that helped you.
Oh man, that turtle was all the training I needed.
Oh my gosh. So the turtle gave its life for a good cause.
I'll tell you one thing, Pastor Alvin. The turtle survived.
Oh my gosh. What?
Yeah, I was able to we were able to dissect, and I put the covering of the abdomen back together, and I put super glue on the sides of the plastron. It's called the plastron, the shell on the belly, and I stuck it back together. And my teacher released him into the terrarium, and he was there until I graduated.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
I don't I, I don't remember if the cat that I with in high school, right,
Yeah.
survived. I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not a doctor. Um, that's amazing. It's amazing. So after Mayo Clinic, when did you decide to say I need to go back to the Philippines? That is it right after?
Yeah, um it was a few months. It's on our second year. My second year. Mario had already finished her fellowship at the Mayo. I wasn't finished yet, but eventually when I got finished, I had an exit interview. Mario was actually offered again a position at the Mayo Clinic, and they said,
Wow.
we can just put up your name on one of the. You can use the office already, and we'll just have your um, name card ready, so that when you decide, you can put it up. But you can already start if you want to. And I had my exit interview, and the chief of cardiac surgery said, "You know what, Randy, you have enough numbers here to qualify for the board in thoracic. But the thing is, the thoracic board will not allow you without going to general surgery." And he said, "I can probably get you into your second year of general surgery if you want to. Let me give a call." So he was on the phone with the head of general surgery and said, Dr. Francisco, I I appreciate the offer, but we really need to go home to the Philippines. It's just, and he was on the phone already, and he said, hold on. And he says, You mean you don't want to stay here?" He says, "We really need to go. We really need to go home." Well, you know what? Then the Philippines will be blessed with you and your
Wow.
wife going home, and that's what he said. Will be blessed. All right, and he says, "All right, never mind." Then puts up the phone, and that was it. Um, the last question he asked me is this: um, "Do you mind me asking, Randy? Do you not like it here at the Mayo?" And I,
Yeah, I
Pastor,
can
are you
hear
still
you.
there? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, "You know what, Dr. Puga, I love it here at the Mayo Clinic. The academic atmosphere is second to none, and the quality of service I've never experienced anywhere. Not in the UK, not in Canada, only here."
Mm.
And I told him, "I love it here." But when I was growing up in Michigan, my dad said, "If God wanted you to stay in America, then He would have made you an American. There's a reason why God made you a Filipino, and you need to know." And I remember my dad saying that. You need to know why.
Wow.
You need to find out for yourself. "I can't answer that for you, son," he said, "but you need to find out for yourself why." And I think the reason why was because I needed, to benefit people here as well.
Wow. And we are blessed to have you, Dr. Randy and Dr.
Well, thank
Maria.
you,
We are blessed.
Alvin, Pastor Alvin. That means a lot to me.
Yeah,
That
we're
really means a lot.
so. I'm sure you would have helped a lot of people in the states, and they would have been glad to have you. But we are blessed to have you. Let me go to another area, Doc. Now, um, one of the things that you probably don't know about Dr. Randy is that he is a trivia guy,
Hmm.
right? He his 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 brain absorbed the encyclopedia that he was reading when he was a kid, and he's
The
devouring
old edition.
Wikipedia at the moment, old edition. Yeah. Um, so what got you interested in all these details? Na sometimes it's not really related to medicine, but you have all these information. I mean, that's just a wonderful thing. We'll be having a discussion, and then you have this interesting trivia about whatever subject we're talking about. It's like, wow, that came out of nowhere, but really enriched the conversation. Tell us about your interest in knowing all these different stuff.
Yeah, science was always my interest. For some reason, it wasn't my best um, score,
Mm.
but science was always my biggest interest. Um, The reason being is that um, for some reason, a lot of information stayed in my brain and never left. And I believe God makes room for more information as I grow older. There was one time when we were attending church in the U.S. and we had we had an astronaut who gave a testimony, and he said, I bet everyone knows who was the first man on the moon. And everybody said, oh, yeah, Neil Armstrong. Yeah, yeah. Okay, answer me this. Who was the last man ever to set his foot on the moon? And I said, Gene Cernan. And everybody was quiet. And the guy said, that's exactly right. And just nobody ever knows who the last person was ever. I said, I said, no. And I said, the reason being is that he set his foot on the moon. How can you not know who he is? You know what I mean? And I said, yeah, these guys are living legends,
Yeah,
and to know them is just part of their legacy, and that's how I started, and eventually, um, you know, interesting things,
yeah,
fascinating things, they usually stay in my brain, and I don't know, I just find it so fascinating. I also try to find uh, the practical reason for all the knowledge I have. For example, I'm working on a project now for laminar flow pumps for biological systems for the
mm,
heart, something like a artificial heart, but a laminar flow. And the reason why I found out laminar flow is because we were in the old Ayala Mall in Makati, and there was this
mm.
fountain. And then Kelly, when we came home from the States, and Kelly was looking at the fountain, and he said, Dad, look at the column of water. It doesn't splash. So I was looking at it. It didn't splash. It just
Yeah,
sort of melted into the
yes,
pavement. And I
yeah,
said, that is just fascinating. So I started looking up, and the reason why it just seemed to be melting into the pavement was because it was laminar flow. Laminar flow is all the molecules of that stream of water are moving in the same direction. There is no haphazard movement. And I said that is just fascinating. In fact, if you God made the human body such that the heart would pump the blood in laminar fashion, the same way. There
oh
was
wow,
no turbulence. It was a perfect laminar flow system. Because if you had turbulence, that would cause your platelets to activate, and then you'll have clots inside your heart, inside
yeah,
your blood vessels. You'll clot up your brain and things like that. So you don't want any turbulence. So God made it in such a way that it's laminar. Just imagine if you can have a mechanical device that's flowing laminar flow in a weak heart, and you can probably help that weak heart, and things like that, Pastor Alvin. I sort of, you know, got interested in trying to apply the knowledge that I or the trivia knowledge that I absorbed into
yeah.
practical um, applications as well.
Plus, it's really wonderful for conversation piece, or at any
So that
parties or
too.
whatever. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it's great. It keeps the conversation going. Um, I don't know if you know. I think going back to the astronauts, one of the things I'll make a segue later on, no, but one of the first things I think Sina Neil Armstrong did when they were looking over, they haven't landed yet, and they were just seeing the beauty of I think the surface of the earth with the sun and all of that, and the only words they could utter was in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And uh, for scientists, for astronauts, the first thing, the impulse, the reflex for the human soul to express at that moment was to utter the word of
Oh,
God
yeah,
when seeing creation for the first time. It was like
absolutely.
inescapable. There's there's no way humanity can rise to a level where he can express that on his own without divine guidance. And
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, they did take uh, one of the astronauts smuggled uh,
Golf
communion.
ball. Oh,
No,
communion elements. They did.
yeah, they
The
did, right? And they took they
Apollo 17 they had.
there you go. So I was like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, that's uh, I don't know if that was allowed. I don't think it was one of the things that was allowed, but he did that because he wanted to honor. Now I'm thinking this is a segue I'm making, because a lot of people they may have their faith early on, and they get into science and all these medical stuff, and then suddenly uh, their faith is forgotten because they begin to see how things operate, and suddenly their need to latch on something to believe is no longer necessary. How come you, knowing a lot of things, who's also seen a lot of the things that they're seeing, how come you can still say, being a medical doctor and an accomplished one at that, still can say, I believe? How does that, how do you reconcile both?
Yeah. When you see a wound heal, that doesn't come from any doctor. When when you see a when you see a child, of course, as a surgeon, we put things together where they need to be. But healing doesn't come from what we do. Healing is a process that is way beyond any human being. It is inherent or built into the body. And when you witness children, from the brink of death, 3 days after surgery, they're up in their bed playing a portable PS2. That that is just utterly amazing.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
And I realized, Lord, that is absolutely not me. That cannot be me. Because
yeah,
if I can't put an electric fan together, how much more the
yes.
human body? And every time I operate, I I I literally the entire 3 4 hours I'm operating. I'm just praying and I'm thanking God. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, God, that there will be no complications. Thank you, God, that there will be no bleeding after surgery.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you, God, that the patient will not have any stroke complications. No stroke, no nothing,
yeah,
Lord. Patient will be out in a few days, feeling much, much, much improved. And, you know, that serves also as a reminder to me that I control nothing. Absolutely, I do not
wow,
control anything. And in fact, my prayer is always, Lord, I always surrender. I surrender first this patient to you, that you will be the source of this patient's healing and restoration, not me. I'm just here to do what you command me to. Because if Christ said that he can only do what his Father tells him to do, how much
wow,
more us? So I tell myself, Lord, I can only do what you tell me to do. I can only do as much as you have given me. The confidence you've given me, the competence you've given me, the training that
mm,
you have given me. It's all I can do. I leave all the rest to you, because and that keeps me that serves as a vivid reminder, a constant reminder that I'm not in control. And I thank God that I'm not in control. Just imagine all the stress.
oh yes,
Gosh, you just imagine, when you teach us, and Pastor Giselle, when you teach us, your position is a position of rest. I know
yeah,
exactly what that means. It means I'm still doing what I need to do. I'm still
yeah,
meeting with the patient. I'm still going on rounds. I still go through traffic and doing things that we need to do. But at the end of the day, I can sit down, relax, and say, God,
Yeah.
you are in control. That is a position of rest that that I believe I am in, and Mariel is in as well. And it is absolutely humbling to know that God gave us an opportunity with my wife to be His instruments
Yeah.
in the fields that we have been um, the path that has been open to us and that has been
Yeah.
ordained for us from the time that we were born. So as the word says, yeah,
That's amazing. Amazing. Speaking of healing, Dr. Randy, I know that you, right now, you're a walking miracle as well. Uh,
yeah, yeah, that's
yes, and
true.
I don't know if you wanna open that up, but you've had time being on the other side, not as a doctor, but as a patient.
But as a patient, absolutely,
Yes. So would you just share a little bit of that?
yeah. I think it was 2011 when it hit me all of a sudden. Like I had my blood works November of 2010, all okay. I had an ultrasound August of 2011, all okay. And then suddenly in October, while doing surgery, I pass out.
What?
I literally pass out while doing surgery.
Wow.
And it's a good thing, you know, I was wearing a, I was wearing telescopes and I was wearing a headlight, and the headlight was attached to a light source, so that when I lost consciousness, I didn't actually fall and hit my head because my head was kind of tethered by the
Mm.
light, by the light headlight that I was wearing, and I passed out just for a few seconds, and I came to right away, and I said, "Why in the world did I pass out?" So I got my tests again. I looked at them and I said, "Oh my gosh, this is life changing. This is." I called up my colleague who's a nephrologist because my kidney function was almost non-existent, wasn't functioning anymore.
Wow.
And I called up my colleague, who's a very good friend. He said, "I'll see you tomorrow right away," because I called him at 10 p.m. at night. And he says, "I'll see you first thing in the morning. Cancel everything. I'll see you first thing in the morning." And he said, "You know what, Randy? I have seen patients in the ICU with 1/3 of your creatinine level, and they're fighting for their lives. And here you are with 3 times the creatinine level of ICU patients, and you're still operating." And says that I cannot understand how you can do that. And I said, that's probably the grace of God that's just
Yeah.
living in me, this sustaining me, and keeping me from from being admitted to the ICU. And I said, okay, so let's go for preemptive surgery. Let's just go for preemptive kidney transplant. And I said, all right, because this is life changing and everything. I
Yeah.
didn't want to have to go undergo dialysis or anything like that.
Yeah.
I said, God, this is absolutely life changing. But you know, you have met me every step of my life, every
Right.
single step of my life, and I will not back down now. I will not
Mm.
doubt. I will not uh, lose heart. And I said, Lord, if you really want me to undergo transplant, then you will bring the donors to me. I will not have
Mm.
to look for a donor.
Yeah.
So my surgeon, who was my classmate in high school, my surgeon said, Randy, I have 2 donors just in case you need to have transplant. I have 2 donors already ready for you. And says, thank you, Dennis. Dennis, his name is Dennis. And I said, Dennis,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, but I know God will give me an opportunity to a donor will come to me, the best donor for me. And then 2 of my fraternity brothers come up to me and they say, Randy, just in case you need a donor, we are willing to donate. We are the
Wow.
same blood type. And he says, gosh, we're not even blood related, and you're wanting to not donate. And says, because wouldn't you do the same for us? And he says, yes, I probably would, but I appreciate it, but God will give me a donor that is best suited for me. So eventually, when I was um, weeks down the line, I wasn't feeling very well. I was really
Yeah.
weakened. And the color of my skin was actually changing. It
Yeah.
was becoming sallow, and you could really see that I was really sick of something. And I remember during Christmas, my sister came up to me and she said, "Randy, why aren't you asking any one of us to donate?" And I said, "I don't want to ask, because if you are going to donate, God will tell you to." Because she's also a believer. She said, "Well, I want to tell you right now, I couldn't sleep last night because God was telling me donate."
Wow.
I said, "See, that's exactly what we were praying for, and everything turned out very well. Surgery went well. I was out after 4 days of
Wow.
transplant surgery. I was out 4 days later, and until this time, I haven't felt better. So
Wow.
I'm at the peak of health until this time. So it's been almost 9 years now since my
Yeah.
transplant. No problems, no nothing. My sister, she exercises every day. She's at the peak of her health. She doesn't have any um, morbidities like hypertension or
Yeah.
diabetes, nothing like that. So she's living also very, very well. So
Wow.
yeah,
Praise the Lord. That's a great, because
absolutely.
I remember, yeah, I remember those days, Dr. Randy, and we were all believing with you. And
Yeah,
we are so glad that you can continue to help many more lives. And speaking of helping many more lives, you are also one of the frontliners that we have. And um, you know, I know you also help out in PGH, diba?
yeah. PGH
Yeah,
Heart
there you
Center,
go.
St. Luke's.
There you go. So, Doc, tell us what's happening. How's it
How's it
been?
been?
And how can we believers help? Aside from, of course, praying that this whole thing will end. And what's your outlook in regards to the whole pandemic thing?
Yeah. This this is life changing as well for all of us, isn't it, Pastor? I lost four of my colleagues from the
Wow.
virus. One very close friend who's who who was also a co-surgeon. He was a pediatric surgeon, and he was head of pediatric surgery at Philippine Children's in Quezon City. And one of my mentors, cardiologist, also a very good friend of mine, but he is much older than me. But he treated me like a friend. He treat me like a former student, but he treated me like a friend. He used to refer patients to me and stuff like that. But he also lost his life to COVID from a patient who didn't reveal his travel history, hid his travel history to China, and they
Hmm.
eventually um, two doctors eventually contracted it and passed away, and I think a nurse contracted it as well, but she survived, and a medical technician also contracted it, and, but survived as well. But all in all, I lost four colleagues, and just last week we lost another doctor in PGH who's a pediatrician, neonatologist, and it's really unfortunate because this thing really hits home like nothing has previously. But the thing is with this virus is an RNA virus, and being an
Yeah.
RNA virus, it's prone to mutation.
Yeah.
Just like the flu virus,
Yeah.
it mutates. That's the reason why we don't have a vaccine for the flu. We can get our flu shots, but it only lasts for the year. You
Yeah.
notice that we have to go back again for another flu shot, and usually it goes on for the rest of our lives. The reason being is that the mutation makes the vaccine useless for the for the next
Next.
serotype or the next
Yeah.
mutation. So coronavirus is such that it also mutates. Most of the mutations, thank God, are harmless to human beings. But there are some mutations that will cause some symptoms, and and uh, and the symptoms are actually are more because of our immune system or immune response rather than the virus. From all my readings in the virus, there are two phases of the disease. First is the virologic disease, the virus. So meaning to
Mm.
say you can have cough, sore throat, body aches, fever, stuff like that. And usually these symptoms are self-limiting, meaning to say you can fight it off with just a proper immune response.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a second part of the disease. It's called an immunologic phase, and not everyone will develop this. Only a few people will develop an immunologic phase, and this is when the body starts fighting against itself. it
Oh,
it
okay.
it recognizes, like for example, it recognizes lung cells as virus, and it'll start attacking the lung cells, and eventually the lung cells will die off. And if you do recover, your lungs are shot, you can't breathe, it it's not compatible with life, you eventually still lose your life. That being said, um, I'm not too optimistic that there will be a vaccine that will be available in the near future. If there will be a vaccine, the biggest question is, will it protect you long term from
Mm-hmm.
even the mutated forms of coronavirus? But the good news is there is therapeutics, meaning to say it will
Mm-hmm.
not it will not stop the virologic phase. So you still may contract the virus, but
Yeah.
it can stop the immunologic phase.
Yeah.
That's the phase that kills. It can
Yeah.
stop it from progressing. And there's very, very good promise with new drugs coming along. And there's
Okay.
one that's particularly interesting. It's its scientific research name is called Pro 140, but its brand name, its generic name is called leronlimab, and it's a monoclonal antibody. It's a humanized monoclonal IgG4. So I
Uh-huh.
won't bother with explaining what an IgG4 is, but it's an antibody that blocks the receptor that is responsible for exciting the the immunologic response. So it
Okay.
stops it from signaling. If you want to be a little bit more easier to understand, for example, the virus are terrorists. If you think about
Uh-huh.
virus as terrorists, and your lungs, for example, as a major city, and in this case, the lungs are Metro Manila. The
Uh-huh.
Philippines cannot live without Metro Manila because that's where
Yeah.
the center of everything is. Just like an individual cannot live without our lungs, we cannot live, Philippines cannot live without Metro Manila.
Yeah.
And suddenly you have terrorists enter Metro Manila. The thing is, the terrorists can be handled by just the police. But the thing, some people will react. Some police will react by calling in for reinforcements. But the
Okay.
police actually can handle all the terrorists on their own without having to
Mm-hmm.
call in backup. The problem is when they call in backup, the Philippines will send in bombers, send in everything. They'll level
Mm-hmm.
out the entire Metro Manila. So Metro Manila is destroyed. And to start off with, the police that were already there could have handled it on their own. So that's the picture of how how coronavirus kills an individual. It it fools the body into thinking that it is attacking the virus, wherein it's already attacking itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there, this drug stops that. It stops the signaling. So it
Okay.
stops. It says stop. It tells the police, no, you don't need backup. You can do it on your own. You have the ability to control it. So do it on your own. So it'll take you 2 weeks to recover, but you will be able to recover. So this drug does that. So it's very, very promising. This drug has a potential of reopening the economy. Of course, we'll still have to go out, with precautions, masks,
Yes.
keeping our hands clean and not touching our face, things like that. Taking our vitamins and leading healthy lives. Yeah.
You mentioned at the beginning that you're very optimistic that one day we'll be able to go back to normal, and a lot of people are saying that that normal may never be the same. So I'd like to believe with you, right? And since you're not just an ordinary person that has an opinion, you actually see the the science part of it. That's very optimistic. I mean, I'm encouraged to hear that. Yeah, we'll get back to that. And so, what do you say? What do you think is the greatest need now of our frontliners? How can we, as a community of believers, be a supply to our frontliners?
More often than not, they need encouragement. Many of them are actually running on empty. They're already their gas tanks are already empty, and they just need encouragement. Um, I try my best to be an encouragement as often as I go to the hospital. I I try to spend some time with people who are there who are really, you know I know who are really starting to run dry already, and I try to speak words of encouragement to them. Even though I'm not there physically, I try to text them or try
Hmm.
to give them verses and words of encouragement. But I think the most that we can as a body of Christ is to pray for them that they get strengthened and renewed in their passion to help, and to be encouraged by the fact that this will be over soon, and that I sincerely believe, Pastor, that the economy, there is a chance that the economy will be open pretty soon, especially when we get reliable therapeutics down the line. Because right now, even the therapeutics that were approved, like remdesivir, for example, you've probably
Hmm.
heard of remdesivir. Remdesivir doesn't work. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, and you have a 27% chance of liver problems with remdesivir.
Oh yeah.
Another is tocilizumab. It's shown doesn't work as well. But the surprising thing is this new monoclonal antibody has been shown to, even in mild and moderate, it prevents you from progressing into severe. And if you are in severe, within within 3 to 7 days, it has shown to decrease the incidence of death, of
Hmm.
lung problems, of kidney and heart problems, and also almost stops the incidence of stroke. The thing is, I think the paramount um, one thing that we can do to help ourselves is to keep healthy.
Hmm.
What I mean by saying keep healthy is we need to have a balance in our life, in everything we eat, in everything we do, in everything we partake of.
Hmm.
Mariel and I, for one, we we limit ourselves with our sweets. We don't take in sugar, simple sugars, or carbohydrates that much. We limit it to approximately 20%. Most of our and we keep a nominal weight. We don't go beyond it and we don't go under it. So we've kept a nominal weight. For me, it's between 155 and 160 pounds, and I'm 5'8". So you have a nominal weight
Yeah.
range as well. Secondly is we engage in nominal exercise as well. We don't get too tired. At the same time, we don't become too lazy. And thirdly, of course, um, and this is very paramount, it's been shown to be very helpful. Vitamin D has been shown to decrease the severity of COVID. So vitamin D, um, you get it from just exposing yourself under the sun, usually before 10 o'clock or after 4 p.m. That's the best sun to be exposed to. But the thing is, we can't get sun exposure. So I personally take 2,000 milligrams of extra vitamin D apart from my multivitamins. So apart
Okay.
and extra 500 milligrams of vitamin C per day with zinc. So I take all these supplements as well, apart from my very low sugar diet and nominal exercise. So to keep healthy, I guess it's in our power to do so as
Hmm.
individuals. And it's also, it helps the front line as well by lessening the burden on them by becoming,
Oh yes.
yeah, by becoming one of the statistics that they need to attend to. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you heard it, folks. From the doctor himself. That's all keep healthy. If there's one thing we can help, of course, prayer and encouragement. I don't know if you know, Doc, but for this next week or so, we at the fort, no, New Life the Fort, we have adopted a hospital here in this area, and we just
Very good.
encourage them. We show up, we send food, we pray for them, we let them know that we're thinking about them. I think if they haven't already done it, kids are gonna write notes just to send them, because it's something, right? When you read something
Yes.
that's written by
That
kids, you know. So
you,
these are the
you
small
cannot,
things.
Pastor, you cannot imagine how much that means to the people in the front line. I've seen I've seen doctors and nurses and techs cry just with the letters of encouragement, letters from strangers telling that they honor them and that they think highly of them. And yep,
Yeah,
that is absolutely perfect what you're
yeah.
doing.
And just to remind people, no, this is a battle. This
Yeah.
is a battle that we're in. It's not the conventional one where we put on gears and whatever. Well, sort of, we're putting on gears, but you know what I mean. We don't have guns, because that's not the type of battle, but it is a battle. And this is something that I think this is an opportunity for the church to rise up, actually, to show the goodness and the grace of God, no, to people around us. And one of the ways we can do that is acts of kindness and just being a light and encouragement. And we're not one of those that's pasaway, you know.
Yeah.
Just I like what Dr. Randy said. One of the ways we can help them is to stay healthy, and we can bring the number way down. I think we can all rise up together, and we'll rise up
Absolutely.
much stronger, right? Dr. Randy, it's been a wonderful time with you. I'm sure there's a lot more we can discuss,
It's been my
but
pleasure.
yeah, and the stuff that you said, not just about front lines and yourself, just know that our prayers are with you and the people that you have. In fact, later on, before we end, I'd like to pray for you. But before we end, you know, just a couple of questions from the people that we have here. How do you keep a
Sure.
balanced life? There's a question here about the it's very demanding. A doctor's life is very demanding with patients, and also keeping up with your learning. You have to continue to study, right? and learn new medicines and new techniques and all of that.
Yeah.
But you're also a husband, you're also a father, you're also a son, and a brother. How do you balance all these things?
That's a good question. One thing is you need to learn how to say no.
Mm,
There's
there
so
we
many
go.
things you want to do. There's so many things that you want to participate in, but you need to realize that you can't be at two places at the same time, and
Mm,
no one is Superman. You may feel like one, but nobody is. So um, you need to learn how to say no. So yeah, I think that's very important for you.
wonderful. There's another question. How do you deal with patients that they have to go under the knife, but their family members have a different opinion?
Oh,
So,
oh, that is a very difficult question. One thing that I've learned over the years is that there needs to be a level of trust between the
mm,
patient and the doctor. And I've realized, and I leave it up to the patients and the patient's family to decide. I tell them you need to talk about it and you need to all be in agreement. Because if there's anyone who's not in agreement, then it will be a cause of conflict later on.
yeah,
I'm not I'm not telling you it'll be 100% successful. I can't say that. By law, I'm required to tell you that there are some complications that may happen. And it may be, and the complications of heart surgery can be actually quite catastrophic. So I tell them, you need to decide as a family. And if there's even one dissenting opinion, then you might have to consider not pursuing surgery.
wow,
But there's one special um, exception to that. When I deal with children, I
mm,
tell the parents that the parents are solely responsible for the child,
wow,
not the grandparents, not the uncles, not the aunties, not even the lolo and lola who are financing the surgery. No, it's not them who are
wow,
taking responsibility. It is the responsibility of the parents to decide what is best for the child. And I remind the parents, regardless of the outcome of surgery, whatever the parents decide is the right decision. That's what I
wow,
have to emphasize, that it is the right decision. So if ever a complication occurs, despite them saying, yeah, we're confident that surgery is the uh, right path that we need to take. So when it does happen, some untoward um, event happens, I just remind them that these things may happen. There's a 2% chance or 4% chance that these may happen, but you need to understand that the decision to go for surgery or not to go pursue surgery was the right decision because it was your decision.
yeah,
And you need to tell yourselves it was the right decision.
wow. That's good.
That's the Yeah, that's the only exception to that.
If you're a doctor, well, which you are, Dr. Randy, is are you a good patient if you're a patient? You
Oh,
know.
that is that is a good question. When I was a resident, I had because it's funny because it's common among surgeons because we don't drink enough. We spend 8 hours in the operating room
Mm,
and then it's all right. And then when we get out, we're always so
yeah.
thirsty. So I had kidney stones, the smallest. It was so painful that I had to have it blasted. It was not an operation; it was sound wave, and it was blasted when I was a resident. And I remember there was one drug that they kept on giving me, and I'd wake up with really, really bad headaches. So around, because it knocks you out. This drug knocks you out. And I was in 2 o'clock in the morning when I just woke up. I had this splitting headache. I went to the nurse's station. I had my IV in my hand and I was carrying it. I went up to the nurse's station and I said, excuse me, may I have my chart, please? And the nurse looks at me and says, I'm sorry, sir, only doctors are allowed. Just, but I am a doctor. He says, no, 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 you're a patient. She tells me, and I see my chart. She's on the table, and I grab onto my chart, and she grabs onto it. Doctor Nicholas, you can't have your chart. And they're just playing tug of war with my chart. 2 o'clock in the morning, okay, okay, you win. I tell you, you win. I'll just put in there that I do not want to have any uh, of this drug anymore because it gives me headaches. So I sign a waiver form and it says, and when I was about to leave, 2 days after, she comes up to me and said, Dr. Nicholas, I tell you, doctors are the hardest patients to take care of. I said, I apologize for giving you a hard time. I really apologize. I said, so I told myself, if ever I become another patient, I will become, I relinquish my license as a doctor and become a full-fledged patient.
There you go. You
Yeah.
just take off that hat for a bit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you wear your robe.
Yep. Exactly.
Here's another question, Doc. Before I go to our rapid fire questions, as we end, Doctor Strange plays music when he's operating. Do you play music also when you're in the operating room?
Absolutely. I do. I have playlists on my Spotify. If you look at my playlists, I have worship one, worship two, worship three, praise one, praise two, praise three, and I usually sequence it in such a way that it'll run through all. And I usually start the day with um, the um, playlists. Then it ends up usually with a worship playlist. And I find, I find uh, praise and worship songs to be the most calming, having the
Mm.
most calming and giving me the best concentration. My partner in practice, who's also a believer, he he usually he usually likes OPM.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, but many of the songs of OPM, although they do have recollection, you do tend to have a good recollection of them. They do they don't relax us as much.
Mm.
And if you put a monitor on me during surgery, you'll notice that my heart rate probably goes up to around 100, 120 with every surgery, and that's how much stress that is put on a
Wow.
surgeon. And you if you check immediately after, everything is okay and we know that everything is okay, and immediately after we take off our gloves and you check our heart rate, it drops down to around 55 and 60.
Wow.
And it's also during this time that we kind of feel lightheaded because all our adrenaline suddenly comes off,
Yeah.
and we kind of feel, you know kind of pooped, if
Yeah.
you know what that means. you know
Yeah.
Winded.
What's what's the longest operation you've undertaken?
Oh, that's interesting. In cardiac surgery, the longest, we cannot, once we, in order to do heart surgery, we need to connect the heart to a heart lung machine so we can stop the heart. So the heart lung machine breathes and pumps for the patient. So we can stop the heart and we can stop the lungs from operating. And we can open up the heart and the heart is doesn't bleed. All the blood is in the machine and it's circulating
Oh,
around the
wow.
body. And once we put the patient on a heart lung machine, we know that anybody put on the heart lung machine more than 8 hours is already dead. No
Wow.
one can survive. It's very, very difficult to survive being on the heart lung machine more than 8 hours. So most of our surgeries are between 3, 4, 5 hours. That's the average. But the longest surgery I ever participated in was 23 hours in a neurosurgical case.
Oh,
It was
wow.
neurosurgery, so it was 23 hours. And the day after, I couldn't move my neck because I had this really, really bad stiff neck. And both myself and my partner who was operating, we just couldn't move our necks. The tumor was just so hard to remove that it took us 23 hours to do it. And
Wow.
that's the main reason why I didn't end up as a brain surgeon. I ended up as a heart surgeon.
There you go. Okay, Doc, it's time for our rapid fire questions.
All
And
right.
okay, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Just a change of line of questioning. Uh, just answer as quickly as possible. First thought. Favorite food.
Oh, sushi.
Ooh. Favorite color.
I'd probably say green.
Hmm. Attire.
Oh, I'm particular with long sleeve shirts, pinstripe, very thin pinstripes, and medium sized collars.
Okay. Um, Pet. Are you a dog person, cat
Oh,
person,
I
or
love dogs, but pets are not
okay?
allowed, unfortunately, in the household. So,
There
but
you
I
go.
love dogs.
Okay. If you can go on a vacation right now, where would it be?
Oh, Mariel and I and Kelly, we'd want to go to Switzerland, the Alps.
Oh wow. Okay. I think that's the first time I've heard that answer. Um, what is your how do you relax when you just want to chill, relax? What do you do?
I have a small um, room down in the garage, and I like fixing things or woodwork.
Okay,
I like working with
woodwork.
wood.
There you go. Um, most daring thing I want to try.
Oh, skydiving. I really want to.
Never. You haven't tried it?
I haven't. My father was a paratrooper in the army,
Oh,
and I wanted to do it, but Mariel didn't allow me to. So,
not allowed.
not allowed. But I want to try it.
I could add a question here. What are the other things that Dr. Marielle is not allowing you to do? But I won't ask that. Uh, absolutely terrified of what?
Big spiders. Spiders as big as my
Ooh,
palm.
yes, there you go. Uh, I cannot live without.
I cannot live without driving with the top down. Sorry,
Ooh,
I
okay,
love motorcycles, but that's one thing Mario won't allow me to. So the
okay.
next best thing is driving with the top down.
There you go. If you can be a superhero, what would be your power?
Oh, I think I would like like the Flash,
Hmm.
um, speed,
Okay. You'd
probably
like to
speed.
discover everybody's slowing down.
Yeah.
Uh, most memorable moment with Dr. Marielle.
Oh, well, actually a lot. But there was one time that we were on our honeymoon. We were going to Lake Como in Italy, and we were on the train, the Eurorail, and we sort of like missed our station, so we had to run to the next station with all our luggage, and we were just running, and you could hear Mariel's laugh. Like we were just laughing, and it's just so funny, and we enjoyed ourselves.
Wow. Okay. Um, if you could choose to be born in a different era, what era would you choose?
Hmm, that would be interesting. Probably just after World War II, because that was the
Hmm.
era wherein there was tremendous hope and there was tremendous opportunity to rebuild and there was a lot of opportunities to move forward as well.
Okay. So that would be between 45, 55.
Yeah, probably around that year.
Okay. Most challenging operation.
Oh, just recently I had a foreign patient who I had to do the most I had to do in an operation. I had to perform four operations on a single heart. And that was probably the most difficult operation I've ever had. And good thing is that patients did very, very well and back in back where she lives. So
There you
yeah.
go. What series are you watching now, if you're watching any?
Oh, none. Mario and I, we don't watch TV that much. We like playing board games. So
Oh, okay.
so we have a special time in at night after clinic and after dinner and after everything that we need to do. We just spend time together and we play board games, Rubik's Cube, or Monopoly, or they have a Monopoly deal in card form.
Yes, yes.
So we
That's
play
fun.
that. Yeah.
If you could learn from one doctor, if you can be an apprentice under a doctor, who would that be?
It'll be John Kirkland. John Kirkland is recognized as the father of heart surgery. I want to see what inspired him to pursue heart surgery because heart surgery was the last frontier of surgery. It was
Ah,
absolutely the last field of surgery to be developed, and and he
interesting.
did a lot of pioneering work. And I just want to go back to that time, and that's probably also the reason why I want to be go back to the
That's true. That's
late
true.
40s and early 50s and just see how he did it. That's just so fascinating.
If you could be with one person in history except Jesus, who would you choose?
Oh, that's easy. Abraham Lincoln.
Mm.
Abraham Lincoln. The, they're probably for U.S. presidents it would be Abe Lincoln. For scientists it would be Nikola Tesla,
Mhm.
and for academicians it would still probably be John Kirkland.
Wonderful. So, three answers. First time. Um, if you were not a doctor, what would you be? What would
Oh,
you like to
easy.
be?
Yeah, mechanical engineer. That was my second choice in college.
There you go.
Yeah.
Um, finish this sentence. I would like to be remembered as.
Oh, I would like to be remembered as an individual who inspired in others to pursue the will of God in their lives.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Last two questions, Doc. What advice would you give to yourself if you can go back to your 10-year-old self?
Oh,
Or so let's say 10 to 15-year-old self.
yeah. I'd probably go back and say, stop, stop um, um, being a smart aleck with your science teacher, and because she knows more than you, you do not know more than her, and stop discussing with her and that probably brought your grades down as well. That probably did.
Okay. Last question, Doc. Life verse. What is your life verse or one of your life verses?
um, I had a ring before. You remember when we went to to Israel?
Is
I
yes.
had a ring that um, had inscriptions. I lost that. Did you know that? I lost it.
Oh,
That's, I, 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 during surgery, I usually put my ring in my pocket, and when I took off my scrubs, it probably lost it there.
It,
But
it
it,
means one thing, Doc. We need to go back.
I know, we need to go back. But you know, we did go back. We did. We went back last year.
Oh, okay. Did you get a new
But
one?
anyway, yeah. No, I don't. I didn't have the opportunity to get. But anyway, my life verse is Mark 9:23. It says, "All things are possible to him who believes."
Oh, wow.
And that 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 was true for me, and I saw it become true for me several times in my life. The impossibilities, my wife, getting into Maitland, getting into the College of Medicine, things like that, getting into surgery, cardiac surgery, getting
Wow.
successful, all things. These are all impossibilities, but
Yeah.
all things are possible to you who believes. That's important, I believe.
I think you've lived it, Dr. Randy, and I think it's God's not done showing you the other impossible things that can
Amen to that.
happen in your life and through your life. Dr. Randy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in Sabado nights.
Thank you.
Thank you guys also for listening and watching. Whatever you received, the gold nuggets that you received from Dr. Randy, wisdom, stories, and everything else, take it with you, learn from it, share it with other people. Dr. Randy, I pray for your health and your family always,
Thank you.
and that you become an encouragement wherever you go, not just for our frontliners, but every patient you meet. You have words that will just give life, not just your hands, but also the life that you live will become an example. I pray that you prosper in all things and be in health. And I pray also, we pray with you and believe with you that all of this will end soon. And you will continue to be an encouragement not only in your field but also in the body of Christ. So thank you, Dr. Randy, Brother Randy. I call him Brother Randy before, but we have been blessed, and hopefully we'll get another opportunity to talk with you maybe in another platform.
Sure. It was my pleasure, Pastor.
Doc, if you have like final words for the people that are watching, whatever's in your heart, you may share it.
I can't divulge much information, but I am working to get um, a good therapeutic available in the Philippines. Pray for me that we'll be able to get it in. Uh, we've been we've been we've been facing a lot of obstacles, legislation obstacles, bureaucracy obstacles. You know, people who are just saying, no, you know, that's impossible. Um, the unbelief is tremendous in the world, but I believe that getting this therapeutic into the Philippines before any other country, that will be a gift of God to the nation, and we're trying to get it in. We're trying to get it in. I want to encourage the people to pray for us, and to pray with us that we'll be able to get it in. I want to tell you that I'm not receiving anything from the company in the U.S. or from the distributor. I'm trying to help here. I'm not receiving anything. I'm just doing this to get this drug available in the Philippines because I know the science works, and I want it to be. Um, I just want to have the economy open up
Yeah.
again, everybody get back to their own lives again. And I tell you one thing, this virus is not the end of us. It's
Amen.
just the beginning of something much, much better. It's a reset for all of us. We are wiser now. We are a lot more well equipped to deal with even more crisis down the line. We are more mature as believers, and we are more unified as one body. And that should encourage you all that God
Yeah.
is working to lift up the body of Christ here on earth. So, you know, keep on praying, keep on believing, because all things, absolutely all things, are possible to him who believes.
Thank you, Dr. Randy. We
My
will
pleasure, Pastor.
align ourselves in prayer with you for bringing whatever is necessary to help our fellow Filipinos and everybody else that's living here. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening in, for watching with us. Watch out for the next Sabado nights. We're going to have another great guest. Watch out for it. We'll announce it soon. In the meantime, stay blessed. The favor of God be with you guys. Rest well, and we will see you tomorrow for our service. God bless you all. We love you. Bye.
Bye.